ideal of leadership that we hold so dear. They once sat in the same desks, had the same classes as some of you, and today they're going to speak about how their determination and the education they received helped them realize their dreams. So, please give a warm welcome to our second Annual Alumnae Series speakers. Stephanie Leach. I'm going to raise your hand, Stephanie. There we go. Kristin Kaburakis. And Annie Castellano. Stephanie and Kristen, just so you know, this audience has already been introduced to Annie Castellano, which is why she has a fan club here. We'd also like to welcome the guests, our guests, families, and the people they invited, so thanks very much for being with us. This Alumni Assembly grew out of a tradition of honoring our graduates, but it was previously held outside of school time. It was actually over Memorial Weekend. And last year we decided to move this event into our reunion week, and we moved this speakers panel into the school day because we wanted you to have the opportunity to meet some of our outstanding graduates. We intend this to be a conversation, so after each guest has shared a little bit of her thoughts and her experience with you, after all three have spoken, we're going to open up the floor to questions, and you'll have a chance to ask these outstanding angels a little bit about their lives since they were here at SJA. Now, Mrs. Klein's our Director of Alumni Relations, will introduce our first speaker.
Good morning. Welcome to the 2013 Alumnae Speaker Series. Our first speaker of the day, Stephanie Jordan Leach, graduated from St. Joe in 1983, and since then has carved out an incredible career in information technology. Stephanie is the Vice President of Information Technology for Western International University. Western International University has the mission of building leaders in a global marketplace. This university provides flexible, affordable bachelor and master's degree programs for working adults. In her current role, Stephanie is responsible for all aspects of technology at the university, including online classrooms, campus technology, and physical infrastructure. Prior to joining Western International University, Stephanie held senior leadership positions at several Fortune 500 companies, including TSYS, Liberty Mutual, Turner Broadcasting, which is CNN, Security First Network Bank, and Price Waterhouse, where she began her career in technology. Stephanie has developed a very effective leadership style which balances motivation, empowerment, and a passion for helping others to grow. Stephanie graduated from the University of Notre Dame in 1987 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in theology. She currently lives in Phoenix, Arizona, with her husband Ronnie and their 4 teenagers, Jordan, Genevieve, Benjamin, and David. As all of you know, technology has become an essential part of our everyday lives, and it is an industry that is constantly transforming at a rapid pace. Stephanie has clearly excelled in this field, and we are very excited for her to be joining us all the way from Arizona to tell us more about her journey. Stephanie?
I want you to think I'm really high-tech, but it's on paper. Because sometimes technology fails us and we always have to have a backup plan. I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you. I want to tell you just a little bit, a couple of things that I've learned that I think are worth sharing. But I want to start by saying that I love jigsaw puzzles. Does anyone like jigsaw puzzles? Do people do jigsaw puzzles anymore? Okay. My favorite jigsaw puzzle was a 5,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, so you can tell I like jigsaw puzzles. And it's about this big, about that tall, and it took me about a month to put together. But my favorite part of doing jigsaw puzzles is separating the pieces. So when I work with my kids on a jigsaw puzzle, and by the way, they're your age, so they're not with kids, and I go through and I get the pile and I start separating them into different colors and different textures. And one of the nice things about jigsaw puzzle is no matter how big it is, every single piece is unique. And it all has an exact place in the puzzle. So as I reflect on my life, what I have learned is this. Like the puzzle pieces, I genuinely believe that God has created each one of us with a set of talents and skills, which makes us unique. And I believe that we should strive to find our place, our purpose, that uses every gift we've been given. Now, I didn't start out doing that, just so we're all clear. What I decided to do was go the other way. So when I was in high school, everybody's like, oh, you should be an engineer. I was like, let me think about engineers. They sit at computers, they write programs, they eliminate people's jobs. That doesn't sound very good. I don't like that. I wanted to care about people. I felt like, I wanted to do something good for the world. And so what I did was, I went to Notre Dame and got my theology degree. Thanks, Dad. Mom. And then I took several jobs over the years that aimed at working with teens, because I thought, summer camp was great, so let me just try and live that. So I wanted to be a youth minister. I tried being a high school teacher. I was not good at being a high school teacher at all. I tried being a coach. I coached basketball, poorly. I tried being a counselor. And truth be told, I was not very good at any of them. And so finally, I quit trying. I said, you know what? Forget it. Let me just go flip pancakes for a while. Well, as you can imagine, my folks weren't thrilled that Notre Dame degree leads to flipping pancakes. That equation, if you're in, pre-calc, doesn't quite compute. So I found a minimum wage job doing data entry. And funny enough, within 2 months, I was designing databases for this company and writing programs. And I thought, if you can't beat it, join it. So I accepted it. And I knew there was a reason why it was supposed to be that way, so I just said, all right, we're just going to go with this for a while. And I've spent the last 23 years in technology. Now, one of the things I want to make sure you hear me say is, discovering our talents is not a quick and easy process. It's actually really hard, and it takes years. So if you come out of the gate and you go to college and you're like, oh, that didn't work, you're just completely normal. And if you come out of college and you take your first couple jobs and you go, ugh, that didn't work, again, very normal. But don't ever lose sight of the fact that you have a set of gifts and talents that the world needs, and go try and find it. Don't give up on yourself. So that was lesson number 1.
Lesson number 2, let's go back to that jigsaw puzzle. So at the end of the jigsaw puzzle, you have all of these interlocking pieces creating this absolutely beautiful puzzle. But note that I said every puzzle piece is unique. So if we had 27 of the exact same puzzle piece, the puzzle wouldn't look so good. So the interlocking pieces is when different pieces come together to create a picture. So I know and I believe that we are all of us here, all of us, are all part of one big interlocking team. And like the big puzzle that God has created, when we see ourselves as alone and separate, we don't often work well together. The mission and purpose of my life is not technology. The mission and purpose of my life is to tell everyone I know that teamwork is the way to bring God's plan to life. Particularly when you're on a team with people who are different from you. So I know most of you have been involved in sports. Sports? Mm-hmm. Theater, right? Choir, singing. All right, so imagine a basketball team with all point guards on the floor. Not really going to be highly successful. Imagine the Wizard of Oz, where everybody playing a part was the Cowardly Lion. Now, if everyone was you, that play would not work out well. I think you can all agree with me that the best teams are filled with people that are very different. And I've had a fantastic experience over the past year working with 100 people who are extremely different, and we have rebuilt a university from the ground up. We are revolutionizing education for working women. And I can tell you, it is the greatest satisfaction of my career. The big thing, though, is, and I teach my team all the time, that you have to appreciate people's differences. Try and understand different viewpoints, and be humble and open to the fact that the way you think is not always the way everybody else thinks. They have a different way of looking at the world. But I can promise you, without a doubt, I'm 100% confident, that if you follow the path of being open to others, finding your place, and working as a team, you will absolutely bring God's plan to life in your life, and you'll be incredibly satisfied and joyful with that. Thank you very much for listening to me today, and go team.
Our second speaker of the day is Kristin Folkl Kaburakis, who graduated from St. Joseph's Academy in 1994. While at St. Joe, Kristen played varsity volleyball and basketball and led both teams to a total of 8 state championships over her 4 years at St. Joe. She was also named High School All-American in both sports multiple times, as well as being named the Dial Female Athlete of the Year her senior year, the male recipient being Tiger Woods. After graduating third in her class from the Academy, Kristen went on to start in volleyball and basketball programs at Stanford University, where she appeared in a total of 6 Final Fours, 4 in volleyball and 2 in basketball. And she won 3 national championships in volleyball. Throughout Kristen's time at Stanford, she not only excelled in sports, but excelled in the classroom as well, graduating in only 3.5 years with a 3.5 GPA in economics. She was recognized for her academic achievements by being named the GTE Academic Player of the Year for senior year. Also of note, Kristen stepped out of school her sophomore year at Stanford to train with the USA Women's Olympic Volleyball team, and as the youngest member of this squad, was designated a first alternate in the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. After graduating from Stanford in 1998, she began her professional basketball career in the WNBA. She played 5 seasons for the Minnesota Lynx and the Portland Fire, and also played professional basketball overseas for teams in Australia, Switzerland, and Greece. After retiring from professional sports, Kristen returned to her roots in St. Louis, Missouri, and began working for the St. Louis Sports Commission as the Director of Development. There are countless other accolades that we can mention today, but we are thrilled to have Kristen with us to share her story with you.
This used to be our gym, I think is how it was where you're sitting. And there are other ways where I feel like it might have just been a year ago that I was sitting where you are. To which my mom always comments, what do you think a 16-year-old girl sees in common with a 37-year-old woman? I'm like, I don't know. Just like you said, technology. But I still feel connected. That's my point. I may have been gone for a while, but every time I think of St. Joe's and get invited back to do things like this, it really, there's a special place in my heart because St. Joe's meant so much to me. It gave me a lot, it taught me a lot. And it really hasn't been, since I've been a grown-up and I could reflect on it, that I realized what it has taught me. So I thought, what I'd like to share today is kind of walk you through just a couple things that in retrospect I'm like, I get it. So athletics obviously have been extremely important in my life. As I stand here in heels, I'm 6'4", flat-footed, I'm 6'2", and I was this height when I was essentially 12, 13. So coming in, yeah, as a freshman, I was pretty big, and I also weighed about 40 pounds more then than I do now. So I was a big kid. Once when we played in Jeff City, I was referred to affectionately in the newspapers as the Beast from the East. But I'll have you know we creamed them when we went there, so that was good. Yeah, exactly. They were nemesis back then. But my path, it may seem that through high school and through college and into my professional life, that was a very linear path. It's like, well, of course that's what you do. Of course if you had success in high school, you go into college and do it, and then professional. But it really wasn't as direct as it might seem. In college, I would say volleyball was sort of more my first sport, and when I stopped out for the Olympics, I essentially missed the entire basketball season at school and missed 2 of the 3 trimesters. And when I got back to campus that following year, I told the basketball coach, I'm tired, I can't do this anymore. I've been going full throttle since I've been 13, and I just need a break. She said, well, that's fine, whatever. It was kind of weird, being in school for the first time in how many years and not having to manage my time so well. Well, what happened was by February, which is late in the basketball season, I was a nerd. I go to the library and it was midterms and I usually close it out, and by midnight I'm biking back to my dorm and my dorm mate says, the basketball coach called. I thought, well, that's weird. Why would they're in Oregon playing, why would she call? Well, all of the bigs had injuries, so stress fractures, broken hands, and they needed a body, is what it came down to. They needed somebody who was 6'2", 200 pounds that they could throw down low and just have somebody there, and they had nobody. So the request was, okay, you haven't played in a year and a half, we know that volleyball is more your sport, but could you just come back and play for the last 10 to 12 games of the season? Which is exceedingly unusual. And I said, well, if you really think I'm going to help, that's great. But I was real nervous about it, right? I mean, think about it. You had success, you have images in your brain about how well you should be doing something, and now you're going to go throw it out on the floor in front of 6,000 or 7,000 people every time you play just to show how rusty you are. I thought, I'll take one for the team. And why this is all important is that had that not happened, had all those people not gotten hurt, and had my coach not called in mid-February, I never would have got back into basketball, which then I went on to play professionally. So what I found is that when I look back over my athletic career especially, that a lot of the things that I've gotten the most, I've learned the most from and gotten the most from are when I've been not afraid to take a risk. And I gotta tell you, I was kind of afraid. My second free throw, my first game back, I didn't even hit the rim. What I was doing, I shot the first one, went in, I'm like, look at how good I am. You know, I haven't done this in a year and a half, look at me. And the second one hit nothing. To which I heard applause and laughing, and we were on my home court, and I thought, that wasn't so good, was it? But that completely and radically changed the course of my life. Had that not happened, I would never have gone on to play professional basketball, which, again, was super wonderful, and it had just come online. I'm old enough that the WNBA started up my junior year of college. So it wasn't something I was planning on being since I was 10 years old. It didn't exist. It just wasn't there. So it was very novel. Like, oh, serendipity, check it out, right? Everyone gets hurt. My coach asked me to come back and play. I decide senior year, hey, this is fun, you know, do this again. And lo and behold, I have a career. And honestly, I don't even remember, people say, well, what's the draft like? How does that work? I don't even remember how I got in the draft. Because I had blown out my knee, so I had an ACL injury in postseason my senior year. So like, I don't even think I entered. I don't even know how that happened. I guess I signed something. I don't know. You know, you're sitting there going, how did you, what? Just show up on a team. So I know something happened, or maybe it was the drugs from my surgery. I'm not really sure. But my point is, my life has gone like this. All over the place, and it's when I've been most open to the sensitivities I have or the fears, or she had used a good phrase, successful failures, that we all go through that, and the only problem with having a failure is when it stops you from trying to do something again. So I go on to play professional basketball, which gave me a lot. I can't say I particularly liked playing in the WNBA. It paid well, so that was a good reason to do it, but didn't particularly like it. So I continued playing as a source of income, but what I really liked and where I really utilized basketball was going overseas and living in a culture, living somewhere else for 6, 7, 8, 9 months, which was awesome. But that comes with its own set of challenges. And where St. Joe's comes into all of this is that they taught you it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail, and it's okay to pick yourself up and try again. You know, it's okay to believe in yourself. It's real hard. What you guys can't appreciate is when I was overseas living and playing, I had the internet, you could type, but calling home, you're going to pay $4 a minute. There was no such thing as Skype. There wasn't. So when you were there, you were very isolated. In Australia, okay, you can speak English, it's not so bad. But when you're in countries where nobody speaks your language, or you go to the store, and you look at a deli counter and you don't know what you're buying, and nobody can tell you what's there, there's a lot of self-reliance that comes in. Or in Australia, get to Australia and they said, of course you have a car. Usually part of your contract is they pay your salary, they pay your apartment, they get you a car so you can get around. And Americans always ask for automatics, right? I don't know how many of you drive sticks, but I'm assuming you're probably in the minority. So I get down there and think, oh, this is a nice little car, this is wonderful. And then I look and I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. This is not just push on the gas, push on the brake. So it was a stick. Well, Australia, they drive on the wrong side of the road. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die, I'm turning into the wrong lanes. So I would go out at 10 o'clock at night, my little subdivision in Melbourne, with my left hand stick bunny hopping down the street trying to learn how to do this. I can't get to practice, and then that's a problem. So it's funny now that I can tell you that when I was doing it, I was sweating. I mean, I'd start off from a stop sign and then my car would go, and I'd slowly start up. Yeah, it was funny, kind of. But anyway, so this is all a very long-winded way of saying my life has been far from linear. And some of the best things I've gotten from it are because it hasn't followed a direct path. And it, as we mentioned, you have to be open to it. You have to say, okay, well, kind of a roadblock, and now we're going this way, and roll with it. And had I not, I don't know that I would be where I am today. And St. Joe's let me do that. They taught me how to be independent. They taught me it was okay to fail. They taught me about values and not giving in when people say, well, win at all costs. I had a coach, as long as you don't get caught, do it to them before they do it to you. And I had a real problem with that. That coach and I did not get along because that's simply not the values that were driven into me my whole life, and especially for 4 years at St. Joe. If we looked at a ref funny, we would get yanked out of the game, much less doing illegal things you shouldn't be. So I was excited to come here today just to share a little bit of that with you, that in whatever endeavors you go after, you're going to be fine as long as you want to be there and you try hard. So, thanks so much.
Thank you, Kristen. Our third speaker of the day, Annie Castellano, also graduated from St. Joe in '94. And since that time, Annie has been taking the creative world by storm. All of you met Annie just a couple weeks ago when she released the incredible St. Joe video to you at an assembly right here. For nearly 14 years, Annie has been contributing to the strategic and creative product that marketing firm Switch delivers to clients like Vitamin Water, 5-Hour Energy, Muscle Milk, AB InBev, Lunabar, Elsevier, Mallinckrodt, Covidian, Savvis, and UPS. She began her career as a copywriter working on promotional and print campaigns, but her passion for the psychology of human behavior and communication has since driven Annie to more experiential forms of marketing, where audience engagement rules. Working with her team, she facilitates market research, strategy development, and ultimately the delivery of conceptual and tactical thinking across a range of disciplines and media. Annie also serves on the Communications Committee at St. Joe, the Advisory Board of the Animal Protective Association of Missouri, and volunteers for a number of organizations whose missions support the community. In 2012, Annie was named one of St. Louis's most influential businesswomen by the St. Louis Business Journal. And last, but certainly not least, Annie is a summa cum laude graduate of St. Louis University and loves peach fresca, NPR, sneakers, the dictionary, dogs with old lady names, cartoons, bookstores, watching soccer on TV, bicycles, office supplies, crossword puzzles, and maple syrup. So without further ado, please welcome Annie Castellano.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for having me present after a Stanford Scholar and Olympian professional athlete. Super cool. Also, I made a PowerPoint presentation, so I apologize for that in advance. In the next 5 minutes, maybe 7, I'm going to talk to you guys about, take you through some of the experiences of my days here at St. Joe and since then, and that have led me to where I am today. Like Kristen, I graduated from St. Joe in 1994. My mom called me Annie Babe. I don't know what Kristen's mom calls her, but maybe it's Annie Babe. This is a recurring theme throughout my journey. I'm going to give you a second to take it in. It's also a recurring theme throughout Stephanie and Kristen's journeys, it turns out. So pay attention, all right? It's probably going to happen to you too. Okay. It is. When I was a student here at St. Joe, I really classes a lot. Delphine and Terrence. I think it was that first India ink with the twig drawing. I was hooked today. Yeah, I was hooked ever since then. But as you may or may not have noticed, I'm not particularly good at drawing. So one day I was standing outside Miss Erin's classroom, and I think I had shared a poem or like an essay or something with her prior to that, and she looked me in the eye and said, "You are a writer." I think that might have been her way of gently redirecting me away from the path to certain failure, but I took what she said to heart. I think it was her belief in me. It really cut through, and that set me on the path to where I am today. So the first lesson that I have to share with you guys, take this off, okay, is listen to your teachers, especially Miss Ahrens. Hey Barb, I'll take that $100 in small untraceable bills. All right, your teachers, no, truly though, they know things that you don't know, and they want you to be successful. What more do you want? Just listen to them. They have good things to say. So, after getting that tip from Miss Ahrens, I set off for college at Indiana University to go about becoming a writer. And then 72 hours later, I freaked out. I packed up my Grand Am and I drove home. I applied, got accepted, and enrolled in SLU all on the same day, and it's not what I expected, but it turned out to be a good thing. I love SLU, and I did well there, and that leads me to life lesson number 2. Don't look back. Just make your decision, you move on. Second guessing yourself is a waste of time. Don't do it. Indiana. I need to drop that. After college, I got my first job at an ad agency. And in my mind, I was going to be pitching campaigns to big brands. Everybody was going to love me, love the work, think I was so awesome. And in reality, what had happened was I was processing sweepstakes entry forms for Apple Computer. So that was a little bit of a letdown, but I made the most of it. Since I had gone to school to be a copywriter, and since Miss Ahrens told me I was a writer, I went to the guy in charge and I said, I asked for some writing assignments. And 6 months later, I was a junior copywriter. So life lesson number 3, ask for what you want. No one else knows what you want, no one's thinking about what you want, nobody else really cares what you want, so you might as well speak up for yourself. Think it through and ask for it. After a couple years, I felt like it was time to actually get paid for what I was worth. So I got my second job, and I got a pretty good raise. And then I think I was about 6 weeks in, and I got fired for being a smartass. Like, literally. So, I didn't think it was very funny at the time. Life lesson number 4, that dude that fired me was a real ass, right? Process sweepstakes entry form sounds pretty damn good. I'll take that. So luckily I found another job pretty fast, and it was mostly what I expected it to be, except that I shared an office with someone. But it was a job, and my office mate was pretty cool, and I was happy to be surviving, to be honest, at that point. So life lesson number 5, you are resilient. As Kristen and Stephanie both said, you're probably going to face a rude awakening or 2 in the next, several years ahead, but you'll bounce back and find your way, and you'll probably find that those little curveballs are what you really needed. Or you may find yourself hiding under your desk. I'm not sure. When my phone rang and someone was offering me the job that I actually wanted since college, I was
pretty afraid to make a move at that point. Things hadn't exactly gone the way that I expected them to go. But I did it. I took the job. And 13 years later, I'm still pinching myself because I'm having so much fun. I'm getting paid to do it, and I love the people that I work with. So, life lesson number 6, say yes. Quit thinking so much, quit making excuses, just do it, and figure it out. That's what happens. You just say yes, and then you're like, oh, dang, I said yes. All right, I better figure out what I'm going to do about it, and you do figure it out, and then you make it work. So here I am, and I just want to leave you with one last life lesson, number 7. There are few things in life more valuable than perspective. And perspective comes from experience, yes, it does. But it also comes from having empathy. And that, I think, is actually the more powerful way to get perspective. So think about the people around you, look at life through other people's eyes, and you'll find that there's a whole lot more to see that way. Bye. Nope, you weren't paying attention. Snooze, you lose. Anybody else?
My question's for the middle person.
Kristen? Oh, scholar, Olympian, professional athlete. Kristin Folkl.
How tall's your husband?
You know what? You laugh, but I've been asked weirder questions than that. Okay, so I'm 6'2". Yeah, no, not 5'2". So there's a story about this. Okay, so all through high school, my older brother by 2 years went to SLU, right? So he's a sophomore, and I'm about ready to go off to high school, and he says, Chris, you know, you can only date guys from SLU. I said, Cat, I'm 6'2". I'm going where the guys are taller than I am. So, needless to say, SLU was not the only place where I dated guys, but I'd always been very aware of how tall people I dated were. Not because I didn't like being tall, but like I said, beast from the east, I stood out a little bit. And there was a side of me that thought, well, I want to be cuddled, and I'm like, there are too many guys who are bigger than me who can do that. So that was a bit of a preoccupation for a while. And my mom said that when I told her about this guy I was seeing, and by this time I was older, I was 26 or 27, and her question was, well, how tall is he? And at this point I was in Greece, right? So this is long distance stuff. And I kind of paused and I thought, well, I don't know. I look him in the eye. And she said she knew right then and there that I was a smitten kitten and that this was probably the guy because I didn't know how tall he was. Now, with that being said, we are both 6'2", but I'm all leg and he's all torso. So his pant size, the length is like a 30, 32, and mine's like a 36. So yeah, so when we look at our kids that are 7 and 5, we keep thinking, okay, now who's got the torso and who's got the legs? But yeah, so we're the same height.
Hi. I have a question. What were your favorite classes this year?
Well, other than drawing with India ink, I like the creative writing classes.
I'd have to say, I don't know if Mr. Stein is here. So, I had a lot, but one of my favorite I must write really close to my paper. I guess I'm like this. And one day he came up to me, he's like, I'm concerned you may need glasses. And I was like, what? So geometry with Mr. Stein.
See, I have a disadvantage. It's been 30 years, so give me a little break. Let me read all the gray hair, the memories. I enjoyed all my math classes. I really did. But I have to say, from teachers, I remember Miss Hennessy like it was yesterday. So, she probably would like me not to say. It was yesterday. It was yesterday.
I'm just going to go over the names for 1 second.
Oh, thank you.
So Stephanie's on the left, Kristen's in the middle, and Annie's on the right.
Okay, my question's for Annie. Do you plan on working at Switch for the rest of your life, or? I need a job.
I hope so. Is that the end of your question?
Yes.
I would be happy if I worked at Switch the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That's my plan, but as you know,
Say yes.
My question's for Stephanie. You went to Notre Dame, yes, and theology. What were you feeling like when you started ending in technology? Was that scary? Ending up, I mean, you majored in theology and ended up in technology. Like, how did that kind of switch?
Well, as I mentioned a little, I really wanted, I wanted to be a youth minister. I wanted to work in theology. I wanted to work in service in the church, but I wasn't any good at it. And so when I landed in technology, it was weird. It was definitely weird, but I knew when it happened that it just felt natural. And I think that's the thing. When you get to the right thing, it's going to feel natural. It's going to look really natural, right? But it's one of those things where when you get to the right, it works for you. It works. So definitely scary. All things.
So I've got a couple things. So first off, Annie, I like your haircut. Yay, you short hair girl. And also, Kristen, when you first started wearing heels, were you terrified to wear them? Because I know I'm 5'11" and I am, so.
Okay, my first problem with finding shoes is that, again, I was tall and so I had a size 12. Now, is that enormous? Kinda. For my height, maybe not, but we did not have, okay, the internet, I was 18, right? I was a senior in high school. I don't even know what it was called, but got invited to do this thing. And we were in Las Vegas, and so it was all these kids from across the country. And all you did was you sat and you listened to these titans in their fields talking about whatever their field was. And one of the symposiums we sat in on was the men who essentially got the internet. It used to be called the Information Superhighway. And I remember sitting in this auditorium thinking, whatever, like, y'all are crazy, you know, computers and, okay, well, fast forward a few years. So when I was trying to find shoes when I was your age, it was grandma pumps and boy tennis shoes. So I couldn't even find heels, but you know, really not, because when I got, especially to college, and I met some of these women who were my height and taller, and they were sporting 3-inch, 4-inch stilettos and just thinking they were the best thing. I mean, just with all the confidence in the world, I was like, okay, you know, I can do this. And now I just forget how tall I am. And I'll see a woman, and I'll say, well, she's tall, and then I walk by her and go, oh, no, she's not very tall. And I think, what do I look like when I walk down the street? And then when I even met my husband, I mean, for the first 4 months I dated him, because we're the same height, I wore flats. And finally he goes, are you ever going to wear heels? I'm like, I don't know, do you want me to? And he said, yes. I'm like, keep her.
And one last one for all three of you. When you all went here for school, did you all have any like after school activities or anything that you did?
After school activities, yes. I Played tennis, not very well. I played basketball until a certain somebody overshadowed everything I did. I was president of my junior class and president of student council when I was a senior.
Killing me, man. You should see how well I draw. She's like, that wasn't very good. I'm like, you have no idea. Okay, so obviously I played basketball and volleyball. I did French, although my mom taught French, and she was like, oh, it would hurt her ears to hear me try to talk. I'm like, Mom, it's the effort, right? She said, yes, sweetheart. And then at one point I tried to start a Shakespeare club, and the first day I showed up, and that was it. So I didn't ever go anywhere.
I played on the basketball team for 2 years, and I got cut my junior year because other younger, taller, stronger, faster people came. I played volleyball. I was on the yearbook, and I went and did a play over at the Jesuit, the SMAC.
Hi, my question's for all of you. Do you still talk to your friends from St. Joe?
All right, I'll take this one. Okay, so the answer is yes. There are a few folks that I definitely still keep in touch with. What's challenging though is so many of us scattered that it's more a matter of you're just not as proximate, and then, I don't know, life happens, kids happen. So there is a core group of maybe 3 or 4 folks that I keep in touch with, and how I've felt over the years is we might not talk every day or see each other every day, but it's those few people you connect with in life that no matter what, you pick up the phone and you kind of feel like you're literally leaving off right, or you're starting right from where you left off.
I do too. I have a group of friends from St. Joe. We get together once a month and have dinner and whatever, and it's really fun. There was a period of time that, you know, college and then early career stuff where we kind of didn't get together regularly, but we have been doing it for a few years now. It's really fun. I look forward to it every month.
Have you seen your video?
Yeah, they've seen my video. Some of them are like, refuse to get on Facebook. And so they haven't, you know, they don't really know what's happening in the world, but I wrote them letters and asked them to please dial up their internets and find it. These guys don't remember modems.
They're like, what are you talking about? What was the question? Oh, I do keep up with a couple of friends from high school. One of my really good friends is a missionary in Brazil. She's probably going to talk about it at some point, but and she and I, we correspond maybe once a year, but when we did, like you said, you pick up right where you left off.
Hi. This is a question for all of you. Do you guys have a favorite memory from being here at St. Joe?
No. Next question. No, I mean, I guess, like, or I don't know. I really don't have like one single one. Do you guys? I mean, I vividly remember Miss Aarons telling me I sucked at art. I guess you could call that a favorite moment.
That's a toughie. That's hard because there's so much that is good. But it is the things that at the time that weren't funny that you look back on now and go, ha ha ha. Like, I see Sister Carol sitting back over there. And to this day, when I see her, it's probably the longest running joke in history that she's like, I have never had a student who was as bad a speller as you. And I'm like, guilty. And I remember I can't remember what class it was, I mean, theology class, and I got like half the answers right. I mean, this was the worst test quiz I had ever gotten, and I was like, oh. I was thinking I'm going to fail this class, and half of it was because I couldn't spell Bethlehem. I mean, it was So now I think it's funny, but at the time I think I walked in the bathroom and went in the stall and cried for like 10 minutes. So I was like, learning how to deal with failures, right? I was like, oh my God, life, and I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's kind of sort of freakish. Because I have a lot of good memories from St. Joe, but the first two that came to mind was getting cut from the basketball team and running for president of student council, which I lost to my best friend. But she was really good at it. It was the right thing. So I think sometimes we just sort of, it's kind of like prom days. The ones that are funny are the ones that go awry.
And I also have one more question for Annie. When are you gonna make us more videos?
Well, that's a budget question for this resident show. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Two things. One, you guys have a zillion swag points.
My joke is no, but God gave me muscles, and I said, so I was really good at lifting heavy things, but couldn't sing to save my life. When I hear anybody sing, when we sat here and listened to you sing the school song, it is beyond me as to how anyone can do that. Like, I don't understand how that happens. Just as people say, well, how do you learn how to bounce a ball? I'm like, well, I don't know, you just kind of go and you do it. You're like, oh, you learn and you train. So I wish I could. I mean, I wish I could. I see people do it, and I think, oh, that's so awesome, but just, yeah, when that talent wand was swinging around, it didn't hit me.
That's, I want to give back at least 1 million of those swag points to the choir that was the...
Trust me, they have a ton.
They're good. You should keep them. I did sing in the choir way back when. We didn't have nearly the talent that they have now, so I can say that. I also was in a play when I was in high school, but I can tell you that I'm not really built for the stage.
What play was it?
It was something called Celebration or something like that. It was not a known play. We'd be much better at picking plays than I am now.
Thank you. Well, it's swag. Hi, this is for all three of you. How old were you before you decided what you wanted to do with your life and found where you were supposed to be?
I'm still figuring it out.
I totally agree. I completely and utterly fell into my first job. My second job, it was because I didn't have a job and I took something. Third job, I was in development, so part of it was fundraising, and I had zero at this much. I was an economics major, right? I could do math, that was great. And the question was, can you ask people for money? And I was brutally honest and said, I have no idea. I've never asked anyone for money. So I fell into that. So I'm 37, and I feel like I've just found what I've always wanted to do, but just recently was able to do, and that's, I'm now a stay-at-home mom.
I have always known. I think I do remember feeling like when I was about 30 that I started to get it. You know, I started to, like there were certain years where I was like, oh. I kind of feel like things, light switches went on. So, I don't know, maybe 30, but now I'm 37 and, oh yeah, I'm Let's see. Class of 94 implies that we're the same age. Okay.
Thank you. My question is for Kristen. I was wondering, I'm a two-season athlete, but not really because I play golf and I swim. But also, and I'm not going pro or anything, but like balancing that with school has been like, like a challenge. And like you went to Stanford and did great there, and then became a professional athlete in two sports. So I was wondering like how you manage it all and keep up with it.
Well, it's weird. Like, if anyone had told me how tough things were going to be, I don't think you'd ever start. Kind of like having kids. I mean, if you really knew what you were in for, I don't know that anyone would procreate because, man, they do stuff and you think, wow, I love you, and that's why I'm not going to set you on the side of the road and just keep driving. However, so like it is, okay, that's a very, yeah, she just said, ooh, that was uncomfortable. So yes, so how do you balance that? Part of it is you're already learning the skills how to balance it. Balancing something and saying it's easy are totally separate. Just because you can doesn't mean it's easy. So I was so accustomed to that's just how life was, and I had so much energy that I remember my parents being criticized by a few people saying, why are you forcing your kid to do this? You're probably running her into the ground. And little did they know that I requested to do it, and so I didn't know life was any different because I liked it. But there is time management skills involved, and there's a lot of prioritizing, saying, okay, the tough is the monotony of it. High school is probably worse than college because you get up, you have to be at school a certain time, you're in school until whatever, 3 or 3:30, you go straight to practice, you go straight from practice home, you eat, and you have a very finite amount of time to get your work done. And so there's no flexibility with, well, I like to watch a show for an hour, I'd like to do this or that. So that's the tough part, is it's every day, it's constant. Once you get to college, if you didn't have the training in high school about how do you manage time and how do you buckle down when you need to, you flounder. So I felt like college, in a sense, was a lot easier because you weren't in school 8 hours a day. And what I had already learned was how to manage my time, so I could. And so while there was a lot of work and there was effort, and there were definitely times where I thought, why am I doing this? It wasn't as, I think people give me more credit than I deserve because it wasn't as difficult as it seems.
Thank you.
Well,
Can we watch the video again?
Can we? After.
Yes.
Yes, we What's up?
So, this is for Kristen and Annie. Do you guys know anyone famous?
I know Kristin Folkl.
Besides Kristin Folkl? She doesn't count, I'm sorry.
Not really. I've met a few famous people. Like who? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I guess the most famous person I know, and I don't really know her all that well, is a former alum, Molly McNerney, went here. She's married to Jim Kimmel. My sister, who's here, though, knows a lot of famous people because she went to the wedding, and there was like Ben Affleck, and Jennifer Aniston. So I live vicariously through her. Yeah.
yeah, to know is a difficult thing. Like people to this day, not so much since his fall from grace, but was constantly, Tiger Woods. You went to school with Tiger Woods. And I'm like, yeah, if you knew Tiger when he was a freshman and sophomore in college, kind of nerdy, didn't do real well in class, like Taco Bell, had kind of like this Trans Am car. I don't know. It was like, could I pick up the phone and call the man? No. But I guess through, you do meet people, like through athletics. There are a lot of people you meet, but I don't think it's fair to say you know. Stanford was kind of cool because, You guys heard of Hewlett Packard? Yeah, well, like the Hewletts and the Packards would come and host tables. You know, you would sit with them. It's like, this is kind of cool. Like, who you are. But not really. I'm kind of vicariously through other people.
Thank you.
All right, I have 2 questions. One is for Annie. What did you do that got you fired?
I mean, nothing if you ask me. There's something wrong with that guy.
The second one is for all of you. Do you have one thing in your life that you're absolutely glad that you made the decision to do it?
Yes, go to St. Joe.
That's tough. I'm going to say, as tough as my kids can be, something that I'm so glad I did, despite joking about how hard they are, is to have kids.
I don't know if there's one thing. Honestly, I can't think of one single thing that's made a big difference. I think we've all shared that there's a whole, cross-path of life.
Kristin Folkl. I went in the Final Four when I was little, and it was like the best thing ever. But you kind of just covered it about Tiger Woods, but how was it winning like best athlete with Tiger Woods? How was that experience for you?
Well, here's the story, right? Okay, so Karen, who is now, Karen was my volleyball coach, and so I think she's probably the one who submitted everything. Like, I didn't know what the dial word was, and somebody, and I think it was her, probably did that. So you submit all the stuff, and you think, look around in the world. Like, there's always someone smarter. There's always someone bigger, faster, stronger, more talented. There's always somebody. So I thought, well, this is nice, and I'm glad they submitted all this stuff, but really hadn't thought too much about it because just figured I wouldn't be selected. And so when I was selected, I was excited and thought, well, woohoo, this is great. And it was kind of a big deal. They flew you to Washington, D.C., and there was this big banquet, and you were part of this larger award ceremony thing. I remember getting there, and it's going to sound horrible, because I'm stereotyping, but they're like, oh, and the male recipient is a golfer. And I was like, golfer, guys? Like, how does that happen? I kept thinking I'd be next to this big burly football player, or basketball guy, or baseball. And again, Tiger, he's a scrawny dude. Like, he's my height, but I'd never heard of him. And I was like, golf? It's like, golf is fine, but it just wasn't computing. It's like the girls, the volleyball, basketball, and the guys doing golf. And everywhere we went, it was 3 days, and you go on tours, and you'd see the monuments, and every single place we went, people would hand me the camera and say, will you take my picture with Tiger Woods? And by the end, I was taking pictures going, oh, head got cut off. Oops, I was so annoyed. I'm like, who is this guy? So, and I forgot your original question, but, so it was, it's awesome, and yet it almost makes you embarrassed, because the thought of people thinking you believe all the hype that may be around what other people are giving you can be uncomfortable. Because you can't. You can think of 20 other people who deserve just what you got for various reasons, and you know that anytime anyone's selected for anything, like class president, or that there's a lot that comes into play. And so I felt embarrassed and super excited, kind of all bundled into one thing.
Hi, this is for Kristen and Annie. Since you guys were in the same class, were you guys like friends or enemies?
Hang it up!
Kristen was too busy. Yeah, we were kind of friends, I guess. My biggest memory was selling Laffy Taffies for 10 cents everywhere you went. You were raising money for your sports and stuff. We definitely knew each other. We weren't hanging out on the weekends because she was practicing and studying. I wasn't.
Because we were in class, but our paths think crossed a lot because she was creative and I wasn't. So she was in our classes and I got through with my freshman year art class and just said, never, no. But I remember thinking, I'm so jealous because she could fit in the desks. You know, I see the girls who could sit there cross-legged or cross their legs, and I'm barely, you know, I'm in there and I'm pretty much sitting just because that's all I can do. And I'd see, and it was like, they look all comfy and cozy and curled up, and like, how do you fit? Well, I was 6'2", 200 pounds, like you don't fit real well in little desks when you're that big. So yes, we were friends. We didn't hate each other.
For just a couple more questions, because you're going to get to see the video again. So, let's just take 2 more questions, and then also we're going to ask our panel to hang around a little bit afterwards, so if you have a question then. Okay.
I work for Kristen. So I know you went to the Junior Olympics, and I'm trying out the Junior Olympics this year, but for skiing. So I didn't know if it was like, what the experience was, if it's like harder than that.
Yeah, well, so tryouts, well, first of all, skiing, that's great. Yeah, where do you train?
I want to hit Valley ski team.
Oh, I did that, okay. Yeah, another thing you'd laugh really hard if you saw me. There'd be a whole lot of Kristen all over the place. Yeah, so what's it like? What's it like trying out for anything? Part of the beauty of being younger is you have nothing to lose, right? I mean, you were going to go, and that's so great that you're throwing yourself out there. But I don't remember being super nervous because I thought I was just going to do what I could. And if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's like people used to ask, like recruiting is totally different now than it was when I was growing up. But I feel like if you're truly talented and have passion for what you do, somebody's going to pick up on that. I mean, yeah, you have to have some talent. You can't just walk in and have all the passion in the world. I mean, there's got to be a happy medium. But I think if you just focus on you, you'll be fine. It's when you start worrying about everybody else in the gym or on the slopes that you start to lose your way. And that goes for anything in life. I mean, the more you focus on what everybody else is doing, kind of it takes away from what you're doing.
Sorry, that was really creepy. Sorry, I forgot my question earlier, so I just started. Okay, so I am considering going to England to study contemporary singing, and I had a question to, like, how did you, because my mom was like getting really emotional about me just applying, and like, how did you deal with being overseas and like away from your family and stuff like that?
Okay, that's for me.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, that's it. Yeah. Maybe said she tried to go to Bloomington and couldn't handle it. You were fine. Okay, so I give major. Okay, I'm old. Swag points. Is that what it is? Is that? Okay.
You guys all have a zillion.
We all have a zillion. Okay, so I give my parents that retroactively, 20 years. That my mom said, didn't you notice I was depressed about the back half of your senior year? I said, well, no. And she goes, well, I was, because I knew when you went away, you went way off to California, that she said the odds were you were never going to come back. A lot of times you find a job where you go to school or you have a passion that takes you elsewhere. And I said, oh, I hadn't really thought about it. I was kind of me focused, right? And she said that I knew that you needed to go. Like you needed to go do what you were going to do. So I was very fortunate that I had parents who, despite how they were feeling, and it's hard to cut the cord and send your kid off to a foreign land. And you don't want to see them get hurt, and you know that things can be difficult and challenging. But I don't know that I worked through stuff with them as much as they had to work through stuff with them. And what probably was most helpful was I didn't shut them out when I left. You know, we taught, because we didn't have the internet exactly, we'd write letters or postcards or invited them to come out and see us. I mean, that was, so it's not that it's hard, it really is, but then when you get there, like when I went to Australia is like America, it's just in the southern hemisphere. But when I left in 1999 to go do it, I mean, I had packed soap, I didn't know what I was like, yeah, toilet paper? I wasn't living in the outback, I was in a city of 3 million people. But the thing was I realized I had my own set of fears, and so did my parents, and that's part of the process. And as long as you can embrace the process and say, this is what it is, and there's no need to pretend or say I shouldn't be feeling this way, that's kind of when people get into the problems, like you say, well, I shouldn't be afraid, or my parents shouldn't be worried. Well, of course they should. I mean, but it'll be fine. You will regret not spreading your wings and trying. I mean, for fear of what might be, like you said, the what ifs. You say yes, it sounds like you have, and you go do it, and then you figure it out.
Thank you. Well, thank you so very much to Stephanie, Kristen, and Annie for being with us on this idea that we have of developing value-driven women leaders, and the other piece to me that was so resonant is not I, but we. And so thank you for bringing that back to us and illustrating it through your life. It's our understanding that Kristen has not seen this video, and I'm pretty sure she's the only person in this room who hasn't seen it. But we're really, really proud of Annie's work and the fact that she is committed to us here at St. Joe in terms of our public image and has worked with us. I just want you to know this is a new screen, a new projector, so whatever you saw last time, this is super duper of what that was. So Travis, can you see our